rate, John's got a question. He says, thank God Scott Boras wasn't Tony Gwynn's agent.
Well, Tony Gwynn got involved with a couple of bad agents. It kind of cost him a bunch of money. But Scott Boras, has he done anything wrong? No. He represents his clients. He represents the superstar clients. He gets the payday. That is his entourage, and that's his methodology to do what he does. Now, as Riley just indicated, maybe we're not going to get $43 million contracts. Maybe this thing is topped out. We got owners that are not bidding on free agents because of the luxury tax. Now we got the Yankees owner saying we need to eradicate the luxury tax. It's not sustainable. And again, the Yankees are paying $309 million in payroll this year, and their tax bill is $58 million. That's a hell of a lot of money. So I don't know what kind of money Soto is going to get. But the only thing we'll know, Boras is doing his job. He's doing it legally. He's nothing unethical. You may not be happy he's taking a player off your team. Boras is going to set up a bidding war. That bidding war is probably going to be Soto versus Alonso, Yankees versus Mets. Somebody leaves. I don't think it's going to be Soto. Somebody's going to vacate New York, and maybe they go to Boston, maybe they go to Chicago, they're going to go somewhere else. So it's baseball.
Well, maybe, Boras is going to cook up some mystery team in there, right, to create more leverage in his deal. I'll
be fascinated to see if Boras does what Ohtani's agent did, because nobody ever done it to that magnitude for payments.
They're going to have to do something creative. Because everyone expects Soto to get more than $440 million, and that might not be in the cards. But you were talking about the salary cap and the Yankees, and they want to see it go away. Can you imagine a scenario where they would lift the cap substantially, but then also create the floor?
That's what I want, the floor to spending, so there's more money for mid-major teams that have to give them out to veteran players. Veteran players go to the mid-major team, and then all of a sudden it's a better project in Detroit or Kansas City or Pittsburgh or wherever. I think that has to happen, but the union's not signed off on that.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that story goes. Let's move along here. We'll go to Douglas, and he says, hey, David Fletcher was not betting on the Angels winning the World Series.
Well, you can't bet on baseball.
Well, I think he's cracking on the Angels.
Sure. That's item one. Yeah. Item two is you can't provide inside trader information to somebody else to bet on baseball. And then item 2A is, was Fletcher providing the money to Colby Schultz to bet on baseball and then reaping benefits because Colby Schultz was betting on baseball? This is a much deeper thing. But as the Life of Riley just announced, if there were 2, there might be more. There might be 4. There might be a hell of a lot more. Now, players know what happens. The Joe Jackson rule, you bet on baseball. The Pete Rose rule, we know what the discipline is. So I don't think players are that stupid. But if they're giving inside information to a friend to place bets and getting a little kickback on that, that's a damn violation.
Yeah. Also, that kind of thing happens all the time. I remember one time I was in a bar here in San Diego. It was actually in Del Mar, and one of the jockeys was there, and he was telling me that he wanted me to pay him money to give me inside scoop on how to bet. And I was like, this is setting up like a scam. But that sort of thing happens all over the place.
Everybody talks. There's conversation everywhere. It's a dangerous area. You would never want this to explode because it would badly impact the integrity of your sport.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay, next question.
Okay, moving on. Let's go here to Dave talking about the Rams. His Rams week 1 +3 at Detroit. McVay is 6-2 against the spread week 1 for his career, and the dog in week 1 Rams games is 6-2 against the spread. Combined 12-4.
McVay's a great coach, but they got to play at Detroit week 1. They get San Francisco week 3. 3 of their first 4 on the road. That's going to be a challenge. Now, they're excited about the defensive end, Jared Verse. They're excited about the defensive tackle, Fiske, both from Florida State. But you're trying to replace, obviously, Aaron Donald, who is such a difference maker defensively up front. And now they got this issue with Kyron Williams and a foot injury that has not healed. And they need him to be the heavy-duty guy that complements Matthew Stafford. So even though they're excited and he's got a great track record, there are going to be a few questions that they got to get answers to between now and Labor Day weekend when the season kind of kicks in.
I like that they picked up Blake Corum. I think that's cool. As far as the Rams go, I always say bring back the old Eric Dickerson style uniforms. Those are a lot better. The new ones they have now, that's like a gradient where the number fades to white. It's just funky.
It's weird, even though they have the name. They want nothing to do with Rams history. It is absolutely amazing. Not the uniforms. They had a chance to hire former Rams star players to be part of their broadcast crew. Wouldn't even return phone calls. They just wanted to go their own way.
That's just foolish.
Well, they did wind up in the Super Bowl, so
Yeah.
then they own the LA market, despite what Team Spanos First Family of Football would like you to think. So that's going to be interesting. We move on. Next question.
Okay, here, let's go to Cal. And he says, hey, what's the most surprising NHL coaching move so far? A little surprised Los Angeles didn't promote Marco Strum from Ontario.
Well, the fact is that Hillier was 21-12-1, and he brought some defensive credibility to the team. Now, he could not solve the mystery of what the hell's going on with Pierre-Luc Dubois. And Kevin Fiala had a decent year scoring points. And those two guys are making mega money. I mean, everybody in LA is making $8 million a year, and they're not been as equally productive. They've got to solve the goaltending thing. They have to find a stud goaltender, and I don't know whether that's coming through the farm system or whether that's in free agency. But they're kind of capped out. They don't have a lot of cap space, and nobody is going to take the Dubois contract. I guess I don't understand when Rob Blake made the trade to get Dubois out of Winnipeg, why he gave him a contract extension at that point, because Dubois had gone from Columbus, fell out of favor there, went to Winnipeg, scored some goals, kind of fell out of favor there, and they weren't going to be able to sign him to an extension. And he came to LA, and they just looked at his split, I think they gave him an 8-year, $68 million contract, and then he goes out and he was a non-factor for a large chunk of the year. And this is a big physical guy. One of my favorite power forwards in the NHL, this goes back a while, was Eric Lindros. Another was John LeClaire. These are 40 and 50 goal scorers. I think Dubois got the physical capability to be that. He hasn't done it. And I'm sure if the old Canada group in Winnipeg, they'll say, geez, he's not the player we thought he was. And hell, he's not the player that Columbus thought they were getting. Now he's LA's problem. They gave him a mega contract. Most surprising situation, Sturm is interviewing, by the way, this weekend in San Jose. And of course, he was in Ontario, the Kings American Hockey League affiliate. So he will get some consideration there. I guess the thing that's really surprised me the most is Todd McClellan has not been hired yet. McClellan's interviewed in Winnipeg. He interviewed in Jersey before they made their choice. Interviewed in Ottawa. Interviewed in, of course, he was in San Jose. So McClellan has not been hired there. And I still think Sheldon Keefe really got a screw job in Toronto. He should be the Maple Leafs coach. There are going to be changes coming, though, because of the press conference. I watched the press conference. Us hockey guys got to watch all this stuff. I watched the Craig Berube press conference with the Maple Leafs. And his item one, we will not be outworked. And we will make changes on this roster. And the changes, they're going to move Mitch Marner, their 40-goal scorer. He's got 1 year left at $10 million, which is really pricey. I think he might be going to San Jose. He might be going to Chicago. He might be going to Nashville in some type of mega high draft pick deal. But they're going to change the chemistry of Maple Leaf hockey. They've changed the culture.
How much impact does a coach have in game? I mean, are they drawing up plays like an NBA coach does during timeouts?
No, but you practice. You practice the system. You practice the penalty kill. You practice the entry passes. You practice what you're doing in terms of rotating guys through the zone, how you get guys open. John, put the beer down. Just watch the Edmonton Oilers power play. When you see the crisp passing between all those guys and these guys running through the slot is in the middle, right in front of the goaltender, and you see Draisaitl, you see McDonald making passes to this guy's stick and the guys flip it into the net. That's what coaching is. That's coaching, not game night. That's coaching preparation for the game itself. Oh. I mean, I've never seen a power play like Edmonton. I mean, you go 15 for 30 in the playoffs, the toughest time of the year to score. It's phenomenal. So that's the impact of coaches. It's a little bit motivation. Rick Tocchet, I've been told, is in Vancouver, just was named coach of the year and dragged the Canucks to the playoffs before they finally ran out of steam. Tocchet, I was told, is just a great motivator in the room. He just walks in and says one sentence, looks at every guy, and walks out. And they went, they won the division. So you got X and O's guys, and you got the ABCs of motivation too. It's just kind of fascinating to see.
Cool stuff. And the innovators, I'm sure, as well.
Exactly.
Okay, let's go on here to Jose talking about the NFL. He says, hi, Lee. I feel like the NFL, with the NFL extending the regular season, the backup quarterbacks are going to be like a baseball rotation with starting quarterbacks to save wear and tear, like hockey backup goalies too.
You're going to need backups because if you're going to play 18, quarterbacks are going to get further dinged. The union has not agreed to this. Now, like anything else in the NFL, I'm giving you an 18th game, John Riley. You're giving me something in the collective bargaining agreement. You're giving me more roster spaces, or you're giving me higher pay. So there's going to have to be a trade-off for the NFL to get to an 18-game schedule. I worry about the wear and tear factor. I mean, it's just brutal. 18 games in 20 weeks. They're going to have 2 bye weeks. 18 games, the wear and tear factor is just phenomenal. Now that can be offset by more guys on the active roster, bigger roster bases, etc. But I mean, the wear and tear on Matthew Stafford, because they're going to take hits. The wear and tear on any quarterback, they're going to get hurt and going to need players. But there's a big drop off between my star quarterback and your backup quarterback. And if you're going to play your backup quarterback, good luck to you.
Well, Easton Stick was like throwing up picks in the OTA, right?
Yeah, I think he threw 4 and 2 others were dropped, but that's a new offense and he's learning. And, this is in May, pal. It's not the first weekend of the regular season. But when he played, even though he moved the team at the end after the Justin Herbert injury, Easton Stick couldn't get the ball in the end zone, period. So you can go up and down the field, but if you can't convert in the red zone and you have to kick a lot of field goals, you need, and that's what goes on with backup quarterbacks.
Do you think the Falcons have the best backup quarterback?
Well, Penix hasn't played yet. We got to see.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt that Kirk Cousins is an established statistical star. Now, he's never won bleep in his career in terms of going deep into postseason. But Atlanta, this whole thing, I was on actually on a show in Winnipeg today, and we were talking about that situation. Atlanta needed pass rush help, and they bypassed the top 2 pass rushers to take a quarterback who's going to be your backup for 2 or 3 years, unless something catastrophic happens to Cousins. Maybe they took him because his insurance policy, if Cousins has more problems with the Achilles, then you got the quarterback. But they got running backs. They got wide receivers. Got a great tight end in Atlanta, Kyle Pitts. You didn't need Penix. You needed pass rushers, and they bypassed 2 of them. So that's kind of a strange storyline. Penix will be developing. We don't know if he's going to play well. I will throw this at you because I found out about this morning. Chicago's completed its first week of OTAs. Caleb Williams had a miserable time. And of course, he's going against the Bears' number 1 defense. I mean, I want to say 6 for 17, 1 versus 1. I mean, he was throwing picks, bounce passes, incompletions, running out of the pocket. It's a learning curve. And he's a great college quarterback, but that's at USC. Penix is at Washington. That's not in the NFL going against Pro Bowl cornerbacks, linebackers, blitz packages, and all that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I expected him to come out of the gate great. But, the other teams that have interesting backup quarterbacks, Pittsburgh Steelers, Denver Broncos, they could do something like what Jose's talking about and maybe have a little bit of a rotation.
Russell Wilson is the guy in Pittsburgh. He's taken all the snaps in number 1. They got him dirt cheap. Denver swallowed the contract. They took Justin Fields, who they got from the Bears. He's on a final year of contract, like Russell Wilson. They're using Justin Fields as a kick returner and a punt returner with the idea we might make him a wide receiver. That's it. That was a Bears quarterback, a number 1 pick. Chicago got rid of him. They took a 6 to get him off the roster. So he's got 1 year to go. That's fascinating. It's interesting what's developed in Denver this week in the full OTAs. Peyton Manning was in there to do interviews, and Peyton Manning, he knows Sean Payton very well. He says that kid quarterback, Bo Nix, that's the right situation to be with, because that coach will develop that quarterback. So that bears watching. Now, the theory coming out of the Oregon Ducks program was that Bo Nix was just a great systems guy. But Bo Nix was not the complete quarterback. He's not going to strong arm it down the field, etc. So will Peyton devise an offense like he did with Drew Brees that made Brees a legitimate superstar? Will he do that for Bo Nix? I mean, Nix got smart, got a lot of experience, but he's not a guy who's going to throw the ball deep into the end zone and power it past cornerbacks and safety. So that's going to be fascinating. But Peyton Manning said, I think Sean Payton's going to do a great job with Bo Nix. He said, great fit.
I think it's going to be fun to watch. I agree.
Okay, next question.
Next question. Okay, this is from Pods Nation. Pick a topic. Pick up that phone. They love you out here, Lee.
Hey, somebody ought to love me. Great weekend ahead. There's, and I don't know, it's because I'm from New York originally, and I was not a Yankee fan, but there's energy when Yankee baseball and its tradition comes into your yard. There's just a buzz in the stadium. And I swear there will be a pile of people wearing Yankee pinstripes tonight. And that happens in San Diego a lot. Got a lot of Red Sox fans, got a lot of Cubs fans. Obviously, Dodger Blue becomes equal to the amount of Padre Brown and Gold, but there's just a buzz when the Yankees are in town. And obviously, this is not the Yankees of Reggie Jackson. It's not Catfish Hunter, and it's not Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris, but there's just something about their tradition of Yankee baseball which is kind of cool. I would have worn my Yankee hoodie, but I didn't want somebody to hammer me.
Remember when Jake Peavy made his debut? That
Sure.
was against the Yankees. I
Mhm.
remember it was a sold-out Qualcomm Stadium, 60,000 people.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And this is what makes interleague play great. You're not getting the Yankees every year, but you get them okay.
We are now.
Well, not
With
at
the new
home.
schedule.
Not at home.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's going to be every other year. So I think this is good for the sport. It's good for baseball, great for Padre fans, and it's going to be a party in the gas lamp all weekend.
Yeah, Gallagher Square. There'll be a lot of people, maybe in somewhere in pinstripes, watching that game too. And the cool thing is, I thought about this morning before I came here, John. Is the old rule was we're going to play the Colorado Rockies and the Giants and Arizona 17 times and the Dodgers 17 times. Well, now it's 13 because baseball finally got smart and said, hey, let's bring the Orioles in for 3 and the Yankees and the Red Sox, and we'll platoon them. The Yankees come here this year. You go to Yankee Stadium next year. Same thing, you flip-flop with Boston. You get to see all the other teams. And I think that's cool because, with apologies to you, I don't want to see the bleeping Giants 17 times.
Yeah, exactly. And as a Padre fan, we definitely don't want to see the Rockies that often. Well, speaking of the Yankees-Padres series, Gary says, hey, you think Juan Soto will get cheered or jeered tonight?
Well, that's interesting because, he's joined at the hip by Scott Boras. So you're going to be booing Boras for what baseball has become. I have mixed emotions. I mean, he was crap his first year here in 2022.
Oh, yeah.
And he came here, then he came back and he was crap to begin 2023. Now, from June 1st on, superstar, used as a launching point, and obviously, became a marquee guy, but forced the trade. And he was a little too political for me. I felt uncomfortable in the clubhouse because I never felt I was really getting an honest baseball answer. And I was told it was all about him and his statistics, and he treated people really differently than other players. So I guess I'd boo his ass. Machado's getting booed at Dodger Stadium for being stupid when he was young. So I assume he'll get booed, even though he was the focal point that obviously brought us Michael King and then brought us other players, one of whom was used to also bring Dylan Cease here. So indirectly, Soto's arrival and then dismissal has brought us 2 frontline starting pitchers. Now, you're going to boo him?
I don't, if I were at the game, I would just, like, hey, I want Soto. I wouldn't boo him, but I know that like 3/4 of the stadium is going to boo him.
Boo him and boo Boras.
They're going to boo Soto. I mean, Boras isn't going to stand in the batter's box, but I just would love to see the Padres, take 2 out of 3 or maybe sweep the Yankees. That's the way a Padre fan should be able to zing with Soto, is by the team winning. And you got your top 3 pitchers going, they got a shot.
Top 2.5 pitchers, because we don't know what Musgrove really is right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
Statement game, litmus test.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's both.
All right, let's go from Fans Forum. We got some social media people here do we call them social media cheap shots? Is that what it is?
Yeah, some of it is. Yeah, okay, here. Let's go. Let's talk a little Clippers here. And this is from Rutherford, and he says, they have Leonard under contract. You fortunately You need stars with a new arena, but Harden and Westbrook are dead weight as of now. Paul George is no longer a top 10 player. Leonard, damn, this situation looks tougher than it should be.
It could really be tough on Steve Ballmer, but at this point, he's got a good relationship with Paul George. He's item 1. That's the first decision has to come from that domino. Does George opt out? Does he opt out to go be a free agent? The big story is opt out, go to Philadelphia. Or does he opt out just to get a 3-year extension on a bigger money from Steve Ballmer? That's item 1. Item 2 is Harden. Harden is an unrestricted free agent. He bailed on him again in the playoffs. That's a history of what his career has been. He's 36. Are you going to give him 3 years max? I was told the Clippers do not want to give him 3 years max. I don't know what's going to happen with Westbrook. He was a good soldier, and then he just fell apart at the end. He spent more time at the end of the season and in the playoffs arguing with people and being pissed off. I didn't even know if they're going to bring him back. They've got to find a way, and they're going to have cap issues. They're going to find a way to get more players in there. If George stays with Kawhi, that's 2 pieces of the puzzle, though Kawhi's got the injury issue that seems to be growing. They could be a pretty competitive team, or they could really go down the drain if George opts out and Kawhi's no longer Kawhi.
Yeah, yeah, and then Harden might not sign. I mean, all three of them could be gone,
Yeah.
especially with the injuries. But isn't it funny how some of these teams in the NBA, they're in the middle. They're not championship caliber, but they're not stinking up the joint and getting the number one picks. So you could be stuck within that like mediocrity. You kind of have to blow it up every once in a while, right?
You could be stuck with the Lakers. Is that what you're referencing?
Well, that too, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. Now with Houston, with the story that broke this week, the Houston's going to shop the third pick, and they want Donovan Mitchell. That makes Houston a big-time player. Obviously, Cleveland goes into rebuild mode to a degree. So be fascinating to see. Next question.
Okay. This is a comment about Slapshot. And this is from, what's this, Cascani. And he says, great story indeed. Makes this wonderful movie even more enjoyable. So glad I found this video. Thanks.
Yeah, it's cool. We got so much response, and we need to do some more movie review stuff. Maybe John will be dragging me over here and bribing me with Guinness beer, and we'll do some special podcasts just on. We could sit and talk about the best baseball movies of time, best football movies, basketball, and so we'll do. Maybe that'll have to come under the bonus podcast rule that we have. John's going to get me some Guinness beer along the way that he brought back from Ireland. But no, it's a great story. It's cool, and if you've never ever seen the movie Slapshot, I guess you can get it on Netflix. You can get it anywhere.
Right.
You got to watch it because 85 to 90% of the story is true. Because I was there in minor league hockey in those years in the North American Hockey League it wasn't the Charlestown Chiefs, it was the Johnstown Jets. But how would they go find the movie review we did on Slapshot?
Well, he saw the video on YouTube, so I'm sure he was looking for Slapshot or, it just came up as a recommended video.
So they just type in YouTube Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and then find it listed under Slapshot?
Well, if you're looking in YouTube, you're probably looking at Slapshot, and there's a bunch of Slapshot content, and the Hacksaw video must have popped up for him.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you've never seen it, if you like hockey, you got to see it. And even if you don't like hockey, see it because Paul Newman was just phenomenal. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our extended Friday special podcast.